Everyone, I'm going to just say a couple of really quick introduction, and Carley will say a few words. We're going to ask if you all would each very briefly introduce yourself, um, and then we'll just naturally start the conversation. And we will encourage others to join in the conversation on WebEx and Facebook Live, and let them know that they can send a question privately, directly to me or Sharonda, whichever one says Sickle Cell Consortium, on the WebEx, and we will ask that question to you without giving their names. Everyone else can just type their question directly into the chat. Welcome everyone to today's session. We are going to go live on Facebook in a moment. Just wanted to remind everyone to please directly mute your line, and that you can type directly into the chat, send your questions, everything that we just said. So we're going to give all of those comments again in a second once we go Facebook Live.
We are now live.
Awesome. Everyone, thank you all very, very much for joining. We're super excited that you are all here to join this fantastic panel of caregivers to talk about mental health for the caregiver as part of the mental health support initiative amid COVID-19. We are thrilled to have been able to talk directly with the sickle cell community, patients, caregivers, mental health experts, to figure out the best way to address mental health needs. As of a couple of days ago, made official today, we have partnered with Be the Match to offer one-on-one counseling for sickle cell patients. And so you all are able to get on and request direct counseling. This is not an official counseling service. Please be reminded that the Sickle Cell Consortium is not a healthcare entity, and we are not healthcare providers. This conversation is not meant to reflect the direct advice of your physician, nor are any opinions expressed meant as endorsements for any product or company. Please, if you have very specific medical concerns, reach out to your individual doctor. With that said, I am Lakia Bailey, but I will be turning it over. I'm not a caregiver, to this fantastic panel of caregivers moderated by Carley Cavins of Cleverly Changing. She's one of our partners with education support, and we're very excited that she's willing to join us. One more thing. Your questions can be asked in this Facebook Live or on the WebEx chat by clicking the link and going directly to WebEx. If, however, you have a private question you do not wish to be addressed openly, please send that question to me in the WebEx chat. When you type into the chat box, change it to the name Sickle Cell Consortium, and your question will come privately to us, and we will ask it for you. Thank you again for joining us. And Carley, please take it away.
Well, thank you everyone for joining us. I am Carley Cavins. I am a mom of twin girls who are 11 years old. One has sickle cell anemia and also type 1 diabetes. And I'm also married to someone who has an autoimmune disorder. So being a caregiver is something that I know firsthand and something that is close to my heart. So we are all in this right with you guys. This is something that we are living every day, and we're here to support each other. So I thank you all for joining this conversation. We are all going to be transparent and honest and share our own experiences and our knowledge with you all. So we thank you for participating and engaging.
Thank you, Carley. If we can, let's get a brief introduction from each of the panelists, and we'll start the conversation. Adrian, shall we start with you? Don't forget that you're muted, Adrian. You'll need to unmute. We can't hear. We can't hear you, Adrian. While we work on unmuting Adrian, I think you're going to have to do that on your end, Adrian. Sharonda, you can give it a try. Let's move to Ray. Ray,
I just unmuted her. There she is.
Yeah.
okay, there we go, Adrian.
Okay. So I'm Adrienne Shapiro, fifth generation others in my family to have a child with sickle cell. I have an adult child. Her name's Marissa Coors, and I have an organization called Access Advocacy, and I come from a long line of caregivers, so I'm very excited that we have a community. I saw my mom go through her struggles on her own and with me, and the fact that I have so many incredible people in my life um, just makes me know how blessed I am. So I'm happy to be here.
Thank you, Adrian. Ray?
Good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. I'm Ray Blaylark. I am the mother of a 23-year-old young man living with sickle cell disease. In addition to that, I am also the sickle cell care coordinator and patient family advocate at our local children's hospital, where we care for about 300 plus families. So I'm interacting with families each and every day, and working with them to understand this journey better and to feel supported. I am also the founder and executive director of Sickle Cell Foundation of Minnesota. And we just simply love what we do. We love our community here in Minnesota. We are still a fairly new organization, so many of these families just have not had that support in years past. And so we're very excited about being able to be there for our families and for the community.
Thank you, Ray. Clayton?
Hear me?
Yes, we hear you.
Okay, awesome. Good evening, Clayton Andrews. I am a sickle cell patient advocate warrior. I'm a father of one teenage boy, a 10-year-old daughter, and a set of 7-year-old twin girls. My daughters each have the trait. I am a licensed professional counselor, clinical supervisor. Um, and I am also the program Sickle Cell Mental Health Initiative, the co-founder and chair of the Sickle Cell Champions Association, and program coordinator for the Men's Action Network. Not much special about me. I'm a dad, a sickle cell warrior, like I said, sickle cell warrior and a dad. So that's me in a nutshell.
I think that's incredibly special. Thank you, Clayton. Vanessa? And don't forget to unmute.
My name is Vanessa Rhodes, and my warrior is 25 years old. And I am an educator by trade. So this is my 35th year as an educator, and I've taught preschool through grad school, which is how I ended up on the children's track. So I am the community communications outreach and coordinator at Hope for SCD. That's my official title now. Um, Basically, I like to write curriculum for children to help them understand. I just recently decided to be more outspoken as an advocate to speak up for some things because the transition from childhood to adulthood has been quite interesting. And I realized that if we were having any challenges, and I'm a little bit outspoken, I can't imagine what's going on with people who aren't. So I'm happy to be here.
Thank you, Vanessa. Carley? Carley, there we go.
Yes.
You want to go
I
ahead
think
and
we had someone else that, is someone else going to introduce themselves, or this is the full panel?
Did I miss someone? I think that's everyone.
Oh, okay. All right. So our first question tonight is, what are some things that families can do to find extra support if they need it right now? So,
You all will
do
join
you
me.
have any ideas on how families can, I guess, work together virtually to support that they need?
This is Ray. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
So I think that the first part of that is depending on how old your warrior is, it's coming to terms with your new normal. And some people feel the need to do that alone, and some people feel the need to do that more from a community perspective, and being able to honor both choices, but also being able to know that there's a community out there and how to reach that community. I always encourage people to start with their community-based organization and connect through the community-based organization. I think that you have church family. If you have a faith-based belief, you can oftentimes find that resource even in groups that may not be sickle cell specific, but are specific to being a caregiver of a child or a person with a chronic disease, and certainly one that is as complex as sickle cell can be. So I just always encourage people to find your new normal, find your place, find your grounding, and then be able to take baby steps from there, because it's different for everyone.
I think I agree wholeheartedly with you, Ray. We as sickle cell families, we already have, I believe, a normal, our normal really situates us well to be facing a situation like this, right? Um, I think we've already are used to having an extended, how can I put this? I always say we have our born family and we have our found family, and so we know who we can rely on and who our go-to people, our ride and die people are already. Where many other people at this point are trying to figure that out. So I think we start off ahead of the game in situations like this. I mean, there is definitely added stress, but as far as knowing who we can turn to and where we can go, I think we have a good foundation for that. I think that there are situations here that for us that add more stress than normal. So normally we have a plan that's, I always said, I have a 3D plan, right? I have an A, B, C. And so for us, we're having to go to D, right? So I think it might be an odd way to think about it, but I think really most of us are exposed to what it is we need. And again, following the community and trusting that what we've already had is still there, and then digging a little deeper for more. And I'm going to keep going on that one because something that I found out during this period is that there are now places and resources that weren't readily available to us before, right? So, for example, most states have a COVID-19 website where you can go to and look for resources and things. So I know the California one, I could go there right now and they've got it all listed out for me for if I need help with mental health, if I'm a caregiver, if I need meds, if I need delivery, if I need anything there that I normally might have to really be stretching if I've gone through my ABC already, that there are ways for me to get help. So I encourage all of us to learn as much as we can about what supports have been put in there through our cities, through our states, through the government that have not been there before for us to learn about it and to use those things. And in the hope that if we're using those things now, that maybe some of those things will remain in place after we've passed this point in history.
Okay, awesome. So for many caregivers right now, they're definitely used to being a caregiver, but there's the additional challenge that they can't always leave their home and do the things and get the care that they were getting prior to COVID-19. And they're having to kind of get maybe telemedicine through virtual help. What type of advice would you say, for the caregiver who's having a hard time seeking the virtual help that they may need? Like, are there some things that they can do to become more comfortable seeking virtual help? Because I think one of the things that is a hurdle is sometimes, like right now, we're doing something via camera. And sometimes people are afraid to be on camera. So how can caregivers kind of get over that hurdle and get the help that they need? And if that includes something virtual?
Well, we're doing it, so I can tell you what mine was. I think for me, I've always used this as kind of my, my work thing, and my visits with my daughter to the doctor, or my visits to my doctor, have always been kind of very personal kind of things. And so that face-to-face thing that I always had, or that confidence of going into the office, and I don't know, to now it's a very flat kind of situation for me. I just, I'm on 1, 2, 3, week 4 of doing the virtual thing. So one thing I had to learn was I had to get comfortable with looking at myself. And I know it sounds really strange, but that you have to get past that. The other thing was I had to prepare for it in 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 much the same way as I do. You know how we always have our list, right? So I had to always have we have to have the list. And in that list, because if I forget something, I can't just turn around and go back to the office and say, oh, by the way, I forgot. I'm very diligent about the list of, going over, the progress, the labs. If one set of things we're doing have to do with physical exercises, physical therapy, and I thought you could never do physical therapy, but yep, physical therapy exercises, the sort of breathing exercises and things like that. So I think it's kind of getting over the discomfort of the camera. And then once that happens, it becomes kind of second nature. I think we're going to be continuing this in the future, because the real upside of it is how many obstacles get removed when you don't have to actually go to the hospital or to the doctor's office. I don't have to drive. I don't have to Uber. I don't have to worry about a companion for Marissa. I don't have to pay for gas. I mean, it's crazy, the plus side of it.
I love that you just brought out the silver lining of it. So one of the beautiful things is we're finding out that there are services available that were not available for us before. Right. And all of a sudden, things are a little bit easier virtually because they've had to kick it in high gear and make those services available virtually, when before we would ask, is there a way we could do this from home? Now all of a sudden we can. So the silver lining of it is that in some ways, some visits have gotten more accessible because we can do it from the comfort of our home. So I'm just happy that you mentioned that.
Yeah, I think that I'm hoping, again, we've been fighting, as Ray knows, we've talked about this forever. If you're in a situation and you've got a provider who doesn't know sickle cell, or you've got a provider that does know it, but the case is very complicated. And so how do we get that provider that's at the point of care access to expertise? And it's always been, well, I don't know if I'm comfortable with that. I know HIPAA. And then the other thing is just the docs and who's going to get paid, right? Because in the insurance who's going to get paid, and the docs being comfortable with it. So what I'm hoping is that we use these services now. I mean, especially where you guys have real weather. I mean, in California, Southern California, we get upset if it's raining outside. And I've heard Ray's description of winter, but could you imagine a winter where you don't have to put your loved one, or you don't have to deal with cold, and you can get everything you need? I mean, I see that as, yeah, definitely the silver lining. And I hope all of us go through the learning curve, because it was uncomfortable, of, and it's a new way of doing things. I mean, I know all my life it's been sitting there within the doctor's office. But if we use this and we build a body of evidence, I guess, or just make it our new normal, then hopefully it can become the new normal once we're past this point.
Can I add something?
Go ahead.
No. Go ahead, Vanessa. Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, our oldest son had been living in Phoenix, and he recently moved home, but we were flying him back to Phoenix because the hematologist there is superb. However, when all this started, we thought, okay, well, we're going to have to make a transition to Arkansas. Well, we ended up having a hospital visit that was probably more traumatic to them, that they met a caregiver who knew about the disease that we were hospitalized for. Long story short, we ended up, because of all this, we can do virtual with the doctor in Phoenix. So we do not have to find, because I have to interview doctors, and if you're not right, we're not taking you on, you're not getting our dollars. That's just how life is. So for us, this has been such a blessing, because we did not want to lose the hematologist we had in Phoenix. And as far as getting comfortable, the first time we did Sunday school online, I thought, oh, this is kind of weird. But some of the ladies in our class, they just went with the microphone. And then I noticed over the last 2 weeks, some of them started putting on the video camera. So you can not put on the video camera and still have a decent conversation. And email is a bit more user friendly now, like we can just email some information and trade things. I'm surprised how fast I've been able to get records transferred. That was another long haul of a thing. So yeah, I did tell someone, I said, well, welcome to our world. I'm not sure why you didn't have toilet paper and hand sanitizer and backup this and that before. I was real confused when people were panicking over some of the things that I'm thinking, okay, we always have this.
Yeah, alcohol, yeah.
Yes, exactly. I'm like, what were you doing before? But anyway, yeah.
I love that we're talking about the learning curve, because one of the things that I think is just a huge blessing for me in the hats that I wear, and of course as a caregiver, but I get to see the perspective each and every day of different caregivers and their experiences. And so when we talk about that learning curve, and we talk about what caregiving is all about, it's so different for everybody, and it really does depend on the age of your child. But I think that we can never ever forget that there are individuals who don't have laptops, who don't have unlimited plans with data, who may or may not have even finished school themselves. And so some of this technology feels so overwhelming. And then to have to go to your children to ask them for that help may be uncomfortable. Maybe it's not. But beginning to take those steps, and if not at first for the telehealth visit, starting with doing the Facebook Lives, starting with, doing some kind of face-to-face chat with a friend, somewhere where you do feel comfortable, where you get an idea of, okay, I left that empty toilet paper roll in the back. Let me go there real quick. You know, those types of things. What I think is important as we move towards telehealth, which is something that our community has asked for a very long time, and I would arguably say that the rare disease community as a whole has been asking for this, because there's so few providers who are knowledgeable that people much like yourself, Vanessa, are either flying their children somewhere else, or they are driving, miles and miles to get to a point of care that feels like it's knowledgeable and compassionate. But I would say that if we don't take advantage of the eagerness of the healthcare system to move towards telehealth, like anything else, they'll pass us by. Or they'll take it away because they won't see it as effective, or it will be effective in some populations in the clinic and not others, and no one will pay attention to that because they'll only be measuring the effectiveness and the feedback from other groups, and we'll fall in between the cracks of the data. And so one of the things I've done even with my clinic is I've specifically asked them, I said, I want the data by race, and I want the data by language spoken, and I want the data by age. I want the data broken down so that we know where our disparities are in offering these services, and we know how to meet families where they are to walk with them to the point of being able to utilize those types of services.
Definitely. I think you brought up some excellent points, and I think Vanessa, she really touched on something that I want to bring back up. You mentioned the digital divide that exists right now, and it's a real thing. So in the education sector, many of our kids are definitely, those who don't have access to devices or to internet, they're definitely in a different position than the children who do. And that's something that we have to keep in mind in our community and kind of try to bridge that gap in many ways. But Vanessa said something about her own experience that I really want to highlight. She said that she found a hematologist that is a good fit for her family. And I think that's critical, especially when it comes to transition care. We brought up transitioning from pediatric care to adulthood and finding someone that you trust, because all of us at whatever stage we are with our healthcare or the healthcare for our children, or whoever we're caregiving for, it is so important that we partner with our healthcare professionals. It's not just a one-sided relationship. We have to bring something to the table, and it starts with finding someone that we actually trust and communicating with them. And thankfully, in this situation, many doctors sometimes, often you have to be licensed to practice in the state of your patient. But because of COVID-19, those rules have been expanded. And so doctors are being allowed to work with patients in other states. And that has been another silver lining that, we're bringing up. But, at the root of it is wherever you are, you have to find doctors that you trust, because you're going to get better care. And I know in my own situation with my daughter, I've had to change a couple doctors because I need to feel comfortable as a parent that I can be open and honest, because that helps me feel more at ease in the whole experience and the whole relationship. So I just wanted to highlight that it's so impressive that you do that for your child. And I think it gives us other parents the permission to do the same. And, it's okay to interview your doctors because you're paying them. They're doing a service for you. And so you have to look at it like that. Like, this is a service provider that I'm hiring to work with me. And so I think that really helps put in perspective what this relationship is all about. All right. So one of the things that I wanted to ask is, we've really talked a lot about the encouraging aspect of what we're dealing with right now, but there are some challenges that we're facing as a community. And what are some of those challenges that you're hearing about in the community with patients who have sickle cell? What are some of those challenges?
Well, I think the challenge for us that we're hearing most of is the fear of going to the hospital. So we already have a fear of going to the hospital, all right? So or the ER. Um, and Now the whole thing about going and the process is different, and what are, running into um, a stressful, going into a stressful situation that you know of is one thing. Going into a stressful situation where there are many unknowns is even harder on us. I mean, I think that's one thing. Second thing I think is that um, the whole gauging of when to go or when not to go. Okay, normally, and I'm speaking of adults. When my child was a child, I could determine that yes, you're going to the hospital, and now we're going now because I could look at you and tell there's something wrong. But with our adults, we're finding that so many stay home and because they really don't want to go, and so that window or that timing of when do I just put on my armor and go to the hospital um, has to be adjusted. I think it's more to go sooner rather than later because you don't know what you're going to walk into, and I think I know that's scary. Also, we're having trouble with people who need to go to infusion centers, and with what they're adjusting things and taking, of course, the cancer patients get um, priority over us. I mean, that's how it is. And so that's been a real challenge.
Speaking as a parent that has and with that added dynamic of being a father, a provider for my kids, my I got well, it's several different challenges. One lies in if I do go into pain, I need to know where I'm going to be. I'm in Augusta. I may be here in Savannah with my kids, and so that's a whole dynamic. My parents died in Augusta. They're a little more able to help. I do have some family here in Savannah, but I don't want them to really. I wouldn't want to bother them. Second thing is, as a provider, to already in this very complexing scenario right now, where work is scarce, transportation is scarce. All these different dynamics. Before I started my job with clinical supervision, I was driving Lyft for a little while, and like I just literally watched as the business just declined and got slower and slower and slower. Pick up 30 rides in a day, and now I'm struggling to get 10 rides in 6 hours. And it's that dynamic of, okay, I still need to feed my family. I still need to feed my kids. They have to eat. I've got to eat occasionally, but I have to make sure they're being taken care of. And so I have to choose. I'm in pain. Do I, A, keep pushing? Will undoubtedly lead to more pain and even more stress and more, just down the line. So am I going to, or am I going to bite the bullet and find help? And then if I have to find help, now I'm thinking, am I in Augusta? All right, I can take them to my mom, I can take them to my sister, I can take them to my dad. or if they do take me in, it's my weekend with my kids, but now I just got admitted into the hospital. Who's going to, well, going to A, watch them while I'm in the hospital, B, how are they going to get back to their mother in Augusta? Now I got to worry about that, plus missing work, plus me in the hospital. And father is because as a father, we don't want, the first thing we want is kids are provided for. And so that always takes precedence with me in having to make that wise decision to, you might need to sit this one out.
You brought up some excellent points.
Yeah.
So my question is, how many of us have packed a bag? So if it, happens that that our child or those of us who, have sickle cell, if we have to go to the doctor, do you already have a bag packed? Have you already come up with a plan? You talked about, who will come get your kids. So it's almost like you have to always be constantly planning and have like a plan A, a plan B, a plan C for whatever happens, because sickle cell doesn't, knock on our door and say, hey, today's going to be the day. It can just happen spontaneously. So I think, oh, yes.
I was just going to add that I think that if we were to unpack that a little bit, because we are a strong people. We are a strong people. We were taught to be strong. We saw strong. And when we saw weak, it didn't feel comfortable to us. And so that we've carried that through not just our own childhood, but into this new journey as well. And I think I can speak for myself that it took several years for me to simply be able to invite others in and to be able to ask for help and to not feel like a burden if I was asking for help. So not only was that very important for me and my mental health, but it was also critical because I was teaching him to not ask for help and to not dig into his village for that support. And sometimes we don't know that the very coping skills that we have used to get by, and though we do it from a place of maybe more maturity, maybe a little bit more wisdom, maybe some experiences, a child watching that, or a young adult who just simply has not yet, may not have yet learned to navigate that village, or because of just simply having sickle cell disease, has felt isolated in just their entire existence. It is that much harder to reach out and ask for help. It is that much harder to feel in the back of your mind like you are the burden or your child is the burden. And that impacts how well we can utilize the resources around us. I am guilty of having people that say, if you need anything, give me a call. And I don't give them a call. No, I need something. It ain't nothing but a prayer, but I don't do it. And I have to be intentional to say, who are the people that I want in the front row of my theater? Because everyone doesn't deserve a front row seat, but you can get people in that third or fourth row at the very least, because they might be part of your plan B or your plan C. And they're not people that you rely on all the time, but maybe you have a rotation so that you're not burdening other family in that way, or taking them away from their responsibilities as well. Part of that having a plan is really doing some self-introspection to check our independence. Because there's independence, there's codependence, but then there's this interdependence that America don't talk about. That is part of what makes a strong community. And instead they've pushed this independence that I don't think is sustainable for strong coping skills. It's not that we can't, but we are not our best person when we are on an island all alone trying to figure it out.
I love that you brought out that, right now during COVID, it feels like all of us are isolated. And that's not what we should be focusing on. because there is strength in helping others. You know, the song Lean on Me, like that's a real thing. We have to lean on each other. And I think in our community as a whole, I know when I have reached out to people in the sickle cell community, they've definitely been uber supportive. But it does take a push to even get you to ask. And what I've learned in my own experience, I haven't always been comfortable letting people in and seeing me in a vulnerable position. And so you talked about, you know, letting people in the third and fourth row, maybe they can order food for you and have it delivered to your house. Like, there are numerous ways that people are willing to help. Not all of it is going to be hands-on. They may not be driving you to the hospital. You may have that one good bestie that's willing to do that, but everybody's not going to be willing to be, you know, right beside you. But they are willing to maybe, you know, write you an encouraging letter. Like, I got a letter from someone this week. It was random, and it was just saying, you know, I'm thinking about you and your family. And it just meant the world to me, you know? So I think what I decided to do, I need to send some people a letter. It put the thought into my mind, which it hadn't really occurred to me, because we get so caught up in caregiving for our own families. Sometimes, you know, we don't think of the little things. Like, a card is very little, but it just changed my perspective. It changed my day. It changed my outlook to know that someone was thinking about me. And I think, you know, we do have to allow people to love on us. And that's something that we don't often feel comfortable doing. Sometimes that comes from a place of hurt, because people don't always come through. And so if we've been hurt in the past, we're less likely to allow someone to help us in that sort of way. But we have to kind of refresh ourselves and refresh our minds and let people in a little bit more. We have to, you know, we have our guards up. And I think that's one thing that sickle cell does. It makes us have a heightened sense of, you know, like our trust level. We sometimes have barriers in place for trusting other people, because, you know, it's just a different community. It's a different mindset that we deal with on a day-to-day basis. And we feel like people don't necessarily relate. We know this community relates because we've all experienced it in some way, but we don't always know that people outside of the sickle cell community can really understand it. But everybody's going through something. So there is some level that they definitely understand.
I think that we also have to remember that you pointed out that there's experiences that we've had that have shaped how we trust. Some of those experiences are historical trauma based as well.
Yeah.
And so we have, again, I talk a lot about unpacking, because this journey forces you to unpack if you want to come out well, right? If you want to keep your sanity. And I say that again from a place of experience. When my son was very, very young, I got to the place of almost having a mental breakdown, because I was trying to be strong for so long and do it all by myself, because I didn't want to burden other people till it took me to a place where I can't do this alone. And I was forced to ask people, right? But I also had to understand, why was that so hard for me? And I had to recognize that it may not have been anything I could put my finger on, but there has been an effort historically to keep us from trusting one another, or to be a little bit less patient and graceful with one another. That impacts our ability to trust letting them in. I don't let everyone in. I don't think anyone on this call lets everybody in. That's not going to work, and I'm not built for jail, so I can't let everyone in. So, but what I have learned is how to. I've learned what my boundaries are and where I put up walls, so that I could take down the walls and instead put up a gate with a fence and let some people out and some people in. And based on that, allowing people to do what they're good at. I also found that asking people to do something out of their own comfort zone makes everybody that much more uncomfortable. But if you're really good at cooking, and I love good food and I love to cook, you might be the person that I ask, to make me something. Or if you're very good at sewing, or if there's just a plethora of things that other people around us are very good at and they love and enjoy it, that we can really get to know that especially in these times.
I just want to say, because I always call it the John Henry, right? So, no, yeah, John Henry, right? John Henry had the,
Yes.
yeah. And so, for me, that model had been mine. My mom was a stay-at-home mom. She took care of my brother and all of us. And then I had Marissa, and then I was supposed to do the same thing, right? But I didn't have my journey was different. I had to go to school. I needed to have a job, and then ultimately I found myself, as a single parent, and had to carry all of this responsibility. And I remember making, when she was younger, she was healthier, and people would show up and visit her. She was in the hospital because it was very rare. But as she became more and more unwell and got older, it felt like, I want to say not an onion, but like lettuce, cabbage, where the leaves on the outside kind of die off. You know what I mean? And it felt like that because I had this huge family, and so although they could pull it together and go for the birth of a new baby or a broken arm or whatever, it became, how can I put it? Their ability to show up for me and Marissa became less and less, right? And so what I found myself doing is not reaching out to them and not calling them. And when it got to the point where I had to make decisions, just like you were talking about. Can I go to work? Can I, how am I going to pay for bills and make sure she's safe? And I realized that I had to do just what Ray said. I had to look around and say, not who should be here for me, right? But who is here? And I had to, how can I put it? Submit to it. The idea that you have this child that you're supposed to be able to look after and you haven't, and people are judging you, and they do. They're judging you that you had the child. They're judging you at what you're doing with the child. It just is all of that stuff. And looking at those people to somehow tell me who I am or what I should be, I was literally dying. I mean, I could not get up off the sidewalk at one point. And so it came to, I'm going to be here, then I need to figure out how to be here. And I remember at one point, my dad saying, just come home. And he wouldn't let me get, what was it? It was called California Care for Children, to help pay the doctor bills. And my dad said to me, you had her, you're going to support her. You don't get any help for her. You don't get any, and I was like, okay, so can you imagine that here was you're being told that, and if you have to reach out and get help, then you don't deserve this child, you don't deserve this life. So I think for me, it really came to where I was just couldn't, and there was no community. And I want to say to all the warriors now and all the caregivers now, what an amazing world you're in, that we have each other and we have resources. And we are not a community of shame. To ask for help, to find help, to even say, I cannot do that, and say, I can't do that. You live with the great disruptor. The fact
Yes.
that any warrior, I mean, my child is my hero, and her friends and this life and everybody I meet, that you could live with that unknown, that disruption, that pain, everything. So if anybody deserves that hand that's held out, it's you. And so we have to, as a people, change, as Ray said, change that dynamic, change that inner dialogue that says to us
Yeah.
that we are not a community, we are not a family. We all are, and we are deserving of that. And so I just, for me, I want to say I don't want any other mother, and I tell them sign up for
Yes.
anything and everything you can, and the fathers, anything and everything you can. Tell your church, tell the school, tell everybody the situation that you are in, and build that support up so that you then can go through life with more, I want to say, confidence. None of it is sickle cell is, like I said, the great disruptor. But if you've got enough support built in for you, then you have more confidence in your life. And then that, then, as Ray said, does transfer over to your children and the next generation and the next generation. So we can um, we can really live a village life,
Yes.
right? We can really live that village life instead of saying, yeah, it takes a village. We can have that village life, but it's something that we have to be mindful of. We have to remind ourselves and remind each other. And when we find ourselves in that inner dialogue saying, oh, I can't let them know, or I can't ask for help, or I can't, stop it and say, oh, that real change that dialogue within us, because it has been beat in generation after generation after generation. The idea of a communal life, of a family life, of all of those things because of what's happened to us as a culture. And listen, America is not a friendly place. It's not a friendly place. And so we have beautiful houses, and we have furniture, and we have university, we have all of that.
Yes.
But the truth is,
We
it's
don't
a
have people.
very hostile place for us culturally. And so what we have to do is be aware of that, right? And take ownership of ourselves and building that community. And it's hard because every TV commercial you see, every, I don't know, everything's telling you that, you need to be independent, or people are just going to flock to you, and da da da, all the happiness things that come into our heads constantly. So I, if anything, I say to the new caregivers and us old caregivers, when that message comes up that I am not deserving, that if I were only stronger, or I should have that moment, let it go through you. Then open your eyes and look and see who is there with a hand outstretched, and grab it. I'm sorry, I went on.
No, no. Um, we have a good village at home. Both sides of our family are very much hands-on in we go on vacation, and either my mom came or my husband's mom came. And it was like that all the way. And then we've got first cousins that he grew up with. But when he transitioned into the adult world, I found myself,
Yeah.
because we were like you guys, Adrian, we rarely went to the hospital when he was little. But then things started happening, and I felt out of sorts. And I went to the LA, when the consortium was in LA. I got a scholarship to fly. I got a scholarship for the registration, and then I got some money and I flew to California, and that's how I got with this community. And I must say, having been that closed mouth about everything, and we homeschooled, so then it was really easy not to say anything. We homeschooled in private schools, so we didn't have to worry about anything. But when we got to college and started needing that educational plan and all these things, and here I am, an educator, and It's like, oh, wait a minute. So finding the community, and then finding who works for you in the community. It's just like everything else. Sometimes we get upset, but everybody in the world is not a part of your community anyway. So everybody in the sickle cell world does not have to be a part of your community. Find the ones in the community that work for you, that you can work with, and then do that. And I think once we learn to first forgive ourselves for whatever it is we think we haven't done right or are not doing right, then it makes it easier for us to forgive others who step or misstep. And if you need to, like the old folks used to say, use a long handle spoon with some people, do that. But don't run and find yourself isolated, because isolation is a trick to keep it. It'll keep you in more despair than where you started.
Right.
So reach out. There's somebody who can help you with what you need. Take that first step. And even if all you can do is type on one of these Facebook pages, somebody is going to read it and find you.
Right.
Yes.
Right. All right. So we have 3 minutes left. I think this conversation has been fantastic. As someone who is a caregiver, I know that I feel so much more encouraged. Some of the things that you guys just said that I want to reiterate is forgive yourselves and then you can forgive others. Vanessa just brought that up. And I think that is so important, because the fact is we're going to need somebody sometime. It's just a fact. All of us are going to need somebody. And so in order for us to get the care and the services that we need, we got to forgive ourselves first so that we can forgive others. Um, Adrian said, we are not a community of shame. Take ownership of ourselves. I love that, in the past, there definitely was some shame, but I'm seeing so many conversations that have just made the conversation normal. And I feel encouraged as a mom to speak out and speak up. And so I'm so glad that those of you who've gone before us were open, were honest, and you're still being open and honest to make this a discussion that we can all have. And there was something else that was said that we even brought up yesterday, and that was to set boundaries. That is so huge. We have to know what our boundaries are. We have to set them with colleagues, with friends, with families, and we even have to have personal boundaries. So it's what we're dealing with right now is a time where we have to know ourselves. We have to start evaluating our own needs so that we can care for our loved ones even better. So in the last 2 minutes that we have, I want everybody to say one thing that you are doing right now to practice self-care. And I know that's a hard one, because I think caregivers struggle with it. I know I personally struggle with it, but I'll go first. And the one thing that I am doing is I'm trying to take a nap when my body tells me that I am overloaded. I'm trying to, I don't get to do that often. So it's definitely not something that's happening every day. I may get to do it maybe once a week, if that, but I do value, if I ever get to, those times when I get to do it, I value that. I value that time where I'm listening to what my body needs.
So I am pedicuring, because your feet are your foundation. I have a bucket and I have some lavender Epsom salt, and I'm soaking my feet and talking to them nicely because I want them to hold myself up.
Yes.
That's my caregiver thing. Take care of yourself. You got to do it. One body is all you're going to get.
Well, I'm doing 10 to 15 minutes a day of gratitude and meditation. And it's really hard for me because my brain goes, all of you who know me, my brain goes constantly. And so that's what I'm doing every day.
That's wonderful.
Those are goals. Me sitting still for 15 minutes. But I'm going to try it, Adrian. I promise. You're going to be my accountability partner.
Okay, let's do it.
I think that what's interesting is that this is hard for most of us to practice self-care and not feel selfish, right? I'm like you. I would run my body into the ground and I wouldn't listen to my body. The very thing I would be trying to teach my son, listen to your body. And here I am just exhausted. And so, yeah, that's exactly what I've been doing. I've given myself time out. Like, you need to go sit down in the corner. Because that's just part of my mental health. And when I can feel myself declining, I have to pause and reflect so that I can get myself better. And even if nobody else around me gets themselves right, let me get me right, so that I can be healthy and that I can lay my head down at night feeling at peace.
Okay, Clayton, do you have something that you want to share that you're doing to practice self-care?
Yeah, I'm a gamer, so
Oh, fun.
I love a good video game. RPGs, adventure, those are my favorite types. And the bonus for me is my daughters are also budding gamers. So when I have them over for the weekend, I can relax, and at the same time, I'm spending time with them because they love to watch. So I'm a big gamer. For me, well, most of my things I like to do, reading, writing. I try to make I'll make time. I gotta make time just because of the fact that I have sickle cell. As a parent, I got to make that time for me to kind of just recharge so I can be, available for my kids to play with it.
Okay, that is awesome. So I am happy that we're all trying to practice at least one thing. We do have a question in the chat, and the question is, are there any caregivers groups out there? If so, can you list them?
Caregivers, just for
Caregiver support groups or organizations for caregivers. We've been asked that one before as well.
Yeah, there is, now my brain's going blank, but there is a big caregiver group, the National Caregiver Group, and I will send that link to.
I think it's like the National Caregivers Association.
The National Caregivers Association. And I have several other caregiver groups that I'm part of, but most of them are all under that national umbrella.
And those are not sickle cell specific.
They're not sickle cell
General
specific.
For caregivers. So if the question was regarding a sickle cell specific
We
one.
don't have one.
No.
So the only caregiver support group that I am aware of where I live, I'm actually in Maryland, and in DC, the National Children's Hospital has a support group. So I am aware of that. They have a support group specifically for sickle cell. I don't actually have the information, but I will reach out and get that information and add it to the Facebook post tonight or tomorrow. I'll try to do that.
I would also encourage caregivers to, I love the fact that National does that. And I think that sometimes there's strength in numbers. So when we go to our clinics and our providers and we say, hey, this is something that would be very meaningful to me, and encourage other people to do the same, I think that it reminds them that this need exists and we don't, again, fall between those cracks. I think sometimes they can assume that we don't have those needs, or that we're not looking for that, or that we're getting it elsewhere. And I think that when we start voicing in platforms like this, and in other environments, that this is something that's important, I think that there is more of a push to make that happen. And right now we are primed for making those changes within the healthcare system and within the community. So I think this is great timing.
So in the chat, there was another support group that was mentioned, and it says, there is one this Saturday that everyone can join, the Sickle Cell Support Group from Sickle Cell Thalassemia Patients Network. Saturday. And so it's on the page. I'm not sure, can someone confirm if that is a Facebook page that says Sickle Cell Thalassemia? Is that a Facebook page? So that's where you would go to find that particular group.
I think you're typing. Did you want to say something? Because it's
I'm sorry. Yes, they can find it in the Sickle Cell Thalassemia Patients Network page. There is a support group this Saturday because they're talking about wellness and mental health and everything. So I hope everybody can join this Saturday. Basically, Ginger Davis is hosting the support group. It's going to be in Zoom. So anyway, there they can register. The link, there's a link there you can register in the page.
Awesome. I think that's great that there is a resource coming up very soon that we can all support and participate in. So that's great.
I don't believe that's a caregiver specific support group. There are a series of different support groups that are happening. Perhaps you can pull together that list of information and supply that for you all so you can see where other online support groups, because they're happening throughout the US and a couple of them in Canada as well.
Exactly.
And I'm just going to give a plug.
The resource page with that information will definitely be helpful for all of us. Do we have any more questions in the last few minutes that we have?
I was just going to say, others may want to check out Sickle Cell Mommies Club on Facebook. That's a group I've actually found them to be very helpful, and there's really good conversation that's happening there. I don't know who runs the group, but it is Sickle Cell Mommies Club, and that's just another.
That group is actually partnered with us, the Sickle Cell Mom, and that's a fantastic resource as well. And we can share the contact for that. We'll put together a little document with some links and places that you can go to share that information.
Well, thank you, everyone. I feel like I feel so full of encouragement just listening to everyone's different experiences and being able to have an open and honest dialogue about what it's like being a caregiver for someone with sickle cell, and just being able to hear other people's perspectives, because we know that our journey is all different. Everyone's experience is a little bit different. And so I just appreciate the strength in numbers and being able to, I thank the consortium for being able to facilitate this chat. So I definitely look forward to chatting with you all in the future. And I just appreciate all of you.
Thank you so much, Carley. Thank you, everyone, for all of the panelists. Thank you all for being part of this chat. I think that it has been a wonderful conversation. We've gotten a lot of questions. Quite a few have joined online, and several of you joined here. I do want to share one thing. There is a COVID-19 page on the Sickle Cell Consortium website, and if you click the mental health support, you can go and find the entire schedule for these webinars and community conversations, other things that are available. And the one thing that we made final today, but we've been in conversation with, that needs to go up is there is a Be the Match. We've partnered with Be the Match, and they are offering direct counseling, one-on-one counseling for the individuals living with sickle cell. It's usually available specifically if you're getting a bone marrow transplant, but during COVID-19, it is available for anyone with sickle cell. That information will be put up here as well. You'll be directed to a page that looks like this, and you can put your information in and request a counselor. So we'll be sharing all that fantastic information with you all. And we'll put some more things up there on the page. You can also check out other resources and things that are available. We'll add a link here. I've sent it over already. There will be another link added here, and it will actually take you to a series of apps and other resources where you can find specifically mental health resources near you, mental health resources for men, for women, for teens, all of that kind of stuff. So we've compiled that information and it will be added soon. Again,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
you all have a fantastic evening. Goodbye.
Thank you.
Bye.